Hi, I'm Anna. I'm substituting for Dr. Lambert, who is not feeling very well. It seems that after last week's podcast, the government criminals that torture targeted individuals decided to jack up the torture on him. His torture was already atrocious, with daily scheduled attacks on his brain, perpetrated by government employees deriving a check funded with American taxpayer money. Just this morning, they blocked Targeted Justice newsletter in Substack. They always think that they're going to come out with absolute impunity, and we are going at Targeted Justice to fight all the way so that that's not the case. We will not let the criminals silence us. So rain or shine, I am here to give you this week's legal update. But before then, I want to welcome today's guest, a pillar of the targeted individual community without whom it is unlikely I would be alive. Like many of you have written to him, Richard Lighthouse saved my life by getting me out of Puerto Rico to come file this historic lawsuit. Welcome to the show, Richard.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I asked Richard to come in today, talk about something that has worked for him and defeating some of the criminal shenanigans when going to sleep. So I really urge you to listen to his advice. I'm sure it'll be really useful to you all because it has been to me. Let's go now to the legal update. 45 weeks ago, I filed Targeted Justice versus Garland and others, the case that gave way to this podcast. As most of you know, tomorrow is the deadline for the defendants to submit their reply brief. In preparation of this show, I reviewed part of the case history to mention some of the facts that I know I have not disclosed to you yet. For example, the docket in this case reflects that the district court withheld resolution on 26 motions that were filed since February 5th until its dismissal on July 11th, whereupon those 26 motions were denied as moot. Except they weren't moot, particularly the motion to compel the limited discovery on the plaintiff's terror screening database status. Nothing was ordered to be produced. This limited discovery for jurisdictional purposes has been invariably granted in other prior cases involving the TSDB, even in cases that involved known and suspected terrorists and not non-investigated subjects that do not meet the terrorist criteria to be on that list. One of the motions that stuck out for me was the motion for reconsideration that whereupon I asked that the extension of time to reply to the preliminary injunction be denied because they asked to respond to it simultaneously with the motion, dispositive motion or motion to dismiss. Even though that motion, the motion for reconsideration containing the testimonies of so many of you that sent me an email saying how their targeting had increased after the filing of the complaint, well, that motion doesn't have any disposition date in the docket. It's almost as if it remained in limbo. The district court ignored plaintiff's plea and disregarded entirely the motion. It is no wonder that on April 28th, 2023, the attorney for the official capacity defendants, Ms. Madeline McMahon, told me over the phone, this case is going to get dismissed anyways. At that time, I didn't think any of it. As an attorney, I have never been 100% certain of the likeliness of success of any motion, despite the correct grounds for it and the truthfulness to it. Ms. McMahon, however, told me over the phone that she was certain that the case was going with a tone that this case is going to get dismissed anyways. More than 300,000 innocent Americans are counting on our Constitution and judicial system to obtain redress from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. I am ready to prepare the reply brief and request a hearing before the Fifth Circuit at the earliest possible. I know many of you are suffering immensely from this criminal program and how urgent shutting it down has become. We are counting on the courage of the judges vested with the responsibility of upholding the Constitution to bring an end to this ongoing human holocaust, sponsored by the alphabet agencies using taxpayer dollars to trample upon the rights of the innocent. And that is what today's show is about. I'm going to bring you an outrageous example of the weaponization of police power to persecute and destroy the lives of law-abiding, honest citizens, just like most targeted individuals. So I am going to, we're going to go into a screen sharing and show you a slideshow I have prepared for you. Okay, so now to the legal update. This is fresh off the press, and I decided to call this Living in Bizarro World. I want to give special thanks to activist in TI, Robert Thurston from Florida, who sent me this article yesterday. And he is one of those TIs that every day wakes up and does something to end his targeting. He goes to city council meetings and gives presentations and takes charge and diagrams and just he presents about this atrocity. So kudos to Robert, and thank you for sending me this article. So let's go on to the first slide. Bizarro World is a fictional planet. It's a cube-shaped fictional planet appearing in American comic books published by DC Comics in the 1960s. In the Bizarro world of Trey, a cube-shaped planet home to Bizarro and companions, all of whom were initially Bizarro versions of Superman, Lois Lane, and their children. Later, other Bizarros were added. Among them was Bizarro, the world's worst detective. So the reason I speak about Bizarro is because when law enforcement becomes the enemy and tries to entrap innocent, hardworking people and destroy their lives and their reputations, it's a chapter out of Bizarro World. Yesterday, I received it's a 106-page federal complaint with like 36 exhibits in civil rights violation, denouncing that former deputy sheriff Nico Irizarry and his accomplices Scott Joseph Snyder II and Charles Custodio tried to entrap him and violated his civil rights. Let's go to this next slide. I have excerpts of the complaint here. The Lee County, Florida Sheriff Marceno is a defendant. He employed defendant Nico Irizarry as a certified deputy sheriff, among other certified deputy sheriffs in Lee County, Florida. Nico Irizarry was also a corrections officer, a policeman at the jail. Custodio, one of the people involved in the ploy, he was a mastermind. He was convicted for insurance fraud, and the victim, Mr. Riley, had testified against him in that case. Custodio vouched he would spend all his efforts and money avenging him. He met one of the co-conspirators in jail, the correctional officer, Irizarry. He made a scheme that as soon as he got out of jail, he would entrap Riley, showing a home in the Fort Myers area to the other co-conspirator that is also a defendant in the case. Custodio and the sheriff's deputy had a rude relationship. I'm not going to go into those salacious details, but you might want to read the complaint because it's not about the relationship. It's just everything that went into trying to destroy this honest man's life, Mr. Riley. Now, Mr. Riley was, he had 40 years experience as a real estate agent, and it seems he had sufficient funds to hire private investigators that uncovered all the shenanigans that these three carried out in order to entrap Mr. Riley. Let's go to the next slide. that I have a part of what is alleged in the complaint. He said that after Riley testified against Custodio in a fraud case, he made it known in a text message to Riley that he would ruin his life and spend every minute and every dime he had to accomplish his goal. Sound familiar, TIs? He sent him a text message saying, I'm going to spend every minute and every dime I have left working on ruining your and David's career and life. This was sent in 2019, prior to all of the shenanigans that concluded, that ended up in Mr. Riley's arrest. Let's go to the next slide, because this thread is pretty similar to what Hunter Biden said to a Chinese businessman, right? He said, and this was today in the New York Post, I'm quoting, if I get a call or text from anyone, well, if it's other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me, his father, and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. These words of forever holding a grudge are none other than placing you in the program. So Mr. Riley faced a very sophisticated entrapment scheme. The complaint says that the deputy sheriff Irizarry, working with Custodio and Snyder, conspired to plan narcotics, namely fentanyl, methamphetamine, oxycodone, Xanax, amphetamine, and MDMA, with a street value of $150,000 in Riley's vehicle, while one of the co-conspirators was in his vehicle, supposedly to go see a property he wanted to purchase. In paragraph 26 of the complaint says, as correction officer working night shifts, Irizarry was responsible for supervising the nighttime trustees, and Custodio, the guy that had the grudge with Mr. Riley, was a nighttime trustee, and Irizarry frequently interacted with Custodio while he was in jail. These events were coordinated by Custodio, Irizarry, Snyder, and other deputies working together for a common goal and objective of planting narcotics in Riley's vehicle and having him charged with a crime he never committed. And then there's a picture there of the drugs. The reason why this just is so close to my heart is because I know a lot of targeted individuals out there have been entrapped. And I myself would have been entrapped because, in my personal situation back home. And it is only when you stick to the law, there's always right or left. So whenever faced with a decision to make, you always have to act in the direction of what is correct, what is the law, because targeted individuals always have someone behind them trying to entrap them into something. And this is not to make you paranoid, but we all know this is the truth. Law enforcement is working in tandem with criminal operatives to target you and entrap you and destroy your reputation. Like in so many TI cases, elements of the underworld befriended crooked cops to place innocent people on the list, like my friend Mary in a retirement home in Minnesota that yesterday texted me she was being gassed. The police, sheriffs, and FBI departments are at mercy of many of these criminals, because it is some of these criminals that have placed people in the TSDB stating that they are terrorists. We're living in Bizarro world. Those called upon to protect us are the ones with the power to destroy us, just like they wanted to destroy Mr. Riley's life in Florida, or like the victims that were raped and beaten up in the torture cave in New Orleans. For those that are interested in these themes, I urge you to read it because it's so perfectly written. It reads like a John Grisham novel, and it has the exhibits that I just don't know how they allowed it to file instead of settling before it got filed. Okay, so pay attention, be watchful. Don't let anyone entrap you, because we know that is the modus operandi. Now, I'm going to turn to an update on the registration forms and the numbers that have been sent to me. I have to thank everybody that has taken the time to do it, because initially I am doing this because, as I have written in the form, this is an exercise. If and when we get the opportunity to go and inspect the terrorist screening database, we want to be able to check the names of those targeted individuals that are on the list. It's going to be an invaluable tool, a priceless tool for all of those targeted individuals that want to have their day in court. And the reason is because when you have over 1,300 persons saying, the same story, it is very hard for any court to say it's fantastical or it's a conspiracy theory. And that is our goal. Our goal is that everybody has their day in court. Many forms have been intercepted. So again, I urge you to carry out the email corroboration mechanism, sending it to tjustice2 at proton.me once you have filed the form with me. I have found many duplicates, so it's, I'm manually checking them. Although 84% of the registrants are from the United States, it is very good to see that the word is getting out. We're getting people registering from Australia, Kenya, Uganda, Japan, Kosovo, and Lithuania, among others. We have insisted this is a worldwide phenomenon, that a crime against humanity that has got to be stopped. And again, the trend that we have is that it's a hate crime against women. It's mostly 2/3 of the program are mostly women. It hovers between 62 and 63% so far, the people with voice to skull. But as we mentioned last time, these are hundreds of people, okay? So this is not something that any court can say is fantastical, because it's very real. And we have the data to back it up. So in women, it's 57% that have it, and in men, it's almost 70%. So as I was telling Len last week, I believe that it is because, maybe men, they deemed it necessary to inflict a harsher torture on men, because it's harder to break men, perhaps. I don't know. Now, this is very interesting. We were talking 2 weeks ago about Charles Cable's legacy. Remember Charles Cable? He renounced as soon as he got the lawsuit. He announced his retirement, because as of January 31st, he retired from the terrorist screening, being the director of the terrorist screening center. And their attorneys did not communicate this information to me, which is a huge breach of their duty of candor, not only to the court, but also to the adverse party. Only 38% so far stated that their targeting began from 2017 on, which is when this man started working as a director of the terrorist screening center. Now, turns out that with the more numbers we get, it's 62% of the people targeted that report targeting reported began from 2017 on. So we have to wonder if this is why Mr. Cable, as soon as he saw the lawsuit, decided to retire. He's still an individual capacity defendant in the lawsuit. Everyone targeted after March 2017 can eventually sue him for illegally adding them to the TSCB. And he also went around the world promulgating the counterterrorism narrative, and this was published on many websites, public sites. And it is my opinion that the law doesn't allow FBI to be going around practicing, exerting their authority outside of the United States. Now, please do register, because, to all of those that obviously trust me and trust the work we're doing to free targeted individuals, because, as I said, this is going to be an invaluable, priceless tool not for the people that I'm going to check and verify their names in the Terry screening database, also for the people that eventually want to file suit. This is going to be solid document that is going to act as a basis for many people to have their day in court. If you register your child, remember to put in the registration in the subject line that you are registering your child, because those are the ones that the government criminals like to intercept the most. Now, the registration is in targetedjustice.com/register. You can find it there. And as I mentioned before, I am the only person getting these forms. And so you have to be a little patient with me, because it takes me a little while to answer and to acknowledge that I received it, especially now. It's important that you try to register with the most accurate information, because this is an exercise not only to verify each person's name in the TSDB if and when the court eventually grants it, and also to provide a sound, rock solid basis of the statistics, trustworthy basis for TIs that are going to have their day in court. Before I move on to our guest today, I wanted to ask those of you that are fluent in English and Japanese and English and or Spanish and Italian, because I can do Spanish, but I can't do Italian or Japanese. And the Targeted Justice volunteers are reaching out. We're trying to make a difference in the world, and there's a lot of Japanese TIs that are asking for help. So we certainly could use, if there is a TI in the United States that can help us be as a translator, we would very much appreciate it. The same with in Italian. It seems that Italy, things are going out of hand there, getting out of hand. And I'm going to start holding, just today, I'm holding a conference call with the people in Italy. So I would very much appreciate if you could, any of you want to volunteer as a translator. It would be priceless for those people out there that need our help and our support. You can just send an email to tjustice2@proton.me and put in the subject line either Japanese translator or Italian translator. So now let's hear it from Richard.
Thank you, Anna. I wanted to cover a couple of topics, and we get a lot of questions from TIs. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about is subliminal messaging. We are fully aware and can count people that have the voice to skull technology. We can refer to that as broadcast voices or hearing voices. V2K is a colloquial term that is used in the TI community. So many people may not be aware of exactly what that means. So it's a broadcast voice. Unfortunately, subliminal messaging basically uses the same technology as V2K, and it's done on a frequency that only the subconscious mind can receive and hear, and your conscious mind is not aware of it, but it can have devastating consequences. So we've covered this before in newsletters, and we've covered it on the website. I've got a book that you can get for free at the bottom of our homepage called The Manipulation of Secondary Personalities, and that's highly dependent on subliminal messaging. As we've stated before on Targeted Justice, everyone in the United States and probably everyone in Europe and possibly even the entire world is being tracked right now, right on the top back part of your head. And that tracking is used, those GPS coordinates are used to direct a very narrow microwave beam that's focused at your head from cell towers, and they aim at the center of your head to put the V2K or the voices into your head. That same technology is used for subliminal messaging 24 hours a day on politicians and judges and police officers. So we need to be aware of that. that many of these people are being manipulated without their conscious awareness. Um, the way that we can deal with that, once we realize that everyone is being targeted, especially targeted individuals, there are some affirmations that we can do to create a firewall. And I use that term loosely because your subconscious mind doesn't have, per se, any type of wall. So you have to put one there. And it's done by placing affirmations in your subconscious mind. And you have to repeat these. And I'll refer you to our newsletter we did not too long ago on this topic. So what are some of the positive affirmations that we could use? Let's say you've got V2K and you're having difficulty tuning it out or ignoring it. So you want to use positive affirmations such as, I can easily ignore the broadcast voices. Okay. You can find a term or a phrase that you think works best for you. And it's going to be different from one person to the next. That's why we're not trying to make a blanket statement that works for everyone. So you've got to find the statement that you feel will work best for you. Okay. The one thing you want to remember, though, your subconscious mind is not like your conscious mind in that it takes statements literally. For example, if I said, wow, I'm having a heavy day, um, your subconscious mind would interpret that, what, did gravity increase? It doesn't it doesn't recognize slang terms. Your subconscious mind, it takes things literally. So it's very careful. You have to word things carefully so that your subconscious mind, when you're directing affirmations for your subconscious mind, you want to be very literal. So you wouldn't want to use a term like V2K. That may or may not mean the same thing to your subconscious mind. So the statement I'm suggesting is, I can easily ignore the broadcast voices. And I want to use that as an affirmation several times a day. I can easily ignore the broadcast voices. The other rule of thumb is you want these statements to be an affirmative. Um, so saying something to the effect of, I hate the voices and I'm just going to block it out. That's not a positive affirmation. That's a negative affirmation. So you want to use positive terms and positive affirmations because they're more effective. So that's the rule of thumb. So one rule of thumb, your subconscious mind takes statements literally. And the second rule of thumb is you want to use positive affirmations, not negative ones. Okay. So let's look at some other positive affirmations that we can use. I will only react to constructive suggestions. So I'm aware that I'm having subliminal messages directed at me, and I want to ignore them. I will only react to constructive suggestions, regardless. And this is a blanket statement that I can use whether it's a subliminal message or one of my friends that's trying to coax me into doing something that I really don't want to do, that I don't think is right. I'm only going to react to constructive suggestions. And I want to affirm this on a regular basis. One of the best times to make these affirmations is when you put your head on your pillow at night and you're just starting to settle in. That's a great time to do positive affirmations. Also, first thing in the morning when you wake up, when you're in that dusk area in between, being fully awake, that's a great time to do positive affirmations because they stick. They get into your subconscious mind easier because of the state of your mind. Here's another positive affirmation I recommend. Every day and in every way, I am getting better and better. This is actually a statement that was developed more than 100 years ago by a psychologist that was starting to understand hypnosis and how the subconscious mind worked. And it was a statement that he had come up with. And I don't recall the exact person, but I do remember the statement. So I'd like for people to try this. It's free. It won't cost you a dime. And you can see how well they react. I think you'll notice a difference if you'll just try these affirmations for no more than 10 minutes at a time. Don't go over 10 minutes. And try it first thing in the morning and right after you tuck in for bed. And you'll be amazed that with just in a matter of days, you'll notice difference in your life in terms of your receptivity and your openness to positive experiences. Another positive affirmation I like to recommend is I am truly, I'm truly becoming a happier person. And you can say that every day and notice the changes that have in your life. It will attract positive events and happy events into your life, just like a magnet. And so I recommend that as well. And there's websites out there if you really want to get into it and research. There's lots of websites on the internet. There's been many authors writing many books on positive affirmations. So check that out if you care to. Second topic I want to cover is question or a complaint we get from many TIs, and it has to do with dreams. They feel like they're having dreams that are not their own. It doesn't feel like it feels like a very violent dream or a very negative experience, frightening, and they feel confident that they are not the source of that dream. Now, I'm not going to try to delve into where the source of that might be, but we want to give you some tools that you can use. First of all, lucid dreaming is the general topic that's covered by this, and there, again, there's lots of websites and lots of authors that have written books on this topic, and it's a developmental, a personal development issue for a lot of people, and you will notice many positive developments in your life to the extent that you work on this. So look up lucid dreaming. But the goal of lucid dreaming is to take your waking consciousness into the dream state. And there's many people that do this successfully. And once you realize you can take your waking consciousness into the dream state, you realize you can do things like fly through the air. You can walk through walls. You can also do things that I recommend for some of these violent dreams and stuff is blow yourself up to 50 feet tall. You'll find it's a great way to get out of these recurring nightmares and spend them in a positive way. Because once you're 50 feet tall, it doesn't matter if somebody's got a gun or you've got crocodiles after you or whatever it might be. Once you're 50 feet tall, the problem's basically solved. So it's a trick that lucid dreaming people recommend. And again, the positive affirmations feed into this. So the positive affirmations can work with lucid dreaming so that you can bring those positive statements into the dream state and use them effectively. So if you're having trouble with lucid dreaming, one of the suggestions that I'll give you is fix the dream after you wake up. Let's say you've had a nightmare, you wake up from it and you go, God, that was horrible. I don't want to do that again. Well, take a minute and pause and go back and try blowing yourself up 50 feet and resolve the dream. Okay. And you'll notice that will minimize this feedback loop because your subconscious mind wants you to solve the problem. Okay. And by doing this and repeating it, even if you're not able to do it in the dream state, if you're waking up and go, wow, that was a bad dream, still fix it. Just fix it in your mind. Go back into it while you're awake and fix the dream. And you'll find that helps you move into the lucid dream state in the future. So that's the suggestion. So I'm not going to try to go into more than this, but if you're interested, there's a number of websites and books and authors on lucid dreaming, and it can be very helpful, particularly if you've got the voice to skull and you're dealing with the issues around that. We recommend learning about lucid dreaming and see if it can help you. Okay, it's free. It's an educational tool, and it can help you deal with what's going on. Okay, we recommend it. Third thing I want to cover very quickly: water shielding. We have a tab on the website, and it says water shielding. For those that are getting head attacks that can be severe at times, the water shielding is certainly going to help. It's not going to hurt. It can only help. Is it going to block 100%? No, it's not. Our experience shows that it does block some of it, and the water shielding is the best shielding that we found. We found that it's more effective than any metal shielding that we've tried. So check out that tab on our website. You can build what we call a rectangular water box. The triangular ones are lower in cost, but you're only looking at about $50 in materials here. So if you can afford the rectangular water box and make it, it's just a single 2x4 cut into 4 sections, and a 1x12 board that's 36 inches long, two of them. So you take a 6-foot board and just cut it in half, and then some screws into the 2x4, and you'll find the images on our website. And pretty much anybody can put these together. And you fill it with square-shaped water bottles, or you might have some other ideas. Water bags, you can buy the Ziploc water bags and double bag them and fill it with water in such a way that your head is completely surrounded with water. Okay, so that's the goal, and we have found them that it helps. Again, it's not 100%, but it does help dampen and suppress some of the microwaves. So we recommend that. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Richard, for that advice. I know that it totally works for me. So I really urge you to give it a shot. It doesn't cost you anything, and it might help you a lot. Remember, you will see the effects after a while you've been practicing it. So now it's time to conclude the show, and much in the tradition of Len, I want to talk about why I call this episode a Bizarro world, living in Bizarro world. I hope that I have been able to adequately fill in for Len, and that you have enjoyed the show. The Bizarro world has come to mean a situation or setting which is weirdly inverted or opposite to expectations. Society is ruled by Bizarro code, which states that us do opposite of all earthly things. Us hate beauty. Us love ugliness. It's big crime to make anything perfect on Bizarro world. In the Bizarro world we're living, sheriff deputies and law enforcement have teamed up with criminals to persecute innocent people that denounce the crimes of their cronies. Their deputy gangs consist of cliques of officers that allegedly engage in violent and potentially criminal behavior, while their counterparts choose to look the other way. They know it's going on, but it's too complicated to denounce it. Mr. Bailey, the victim in the case that I told you about, he had the cleverness and financial resources to immediately investigate and fight back. He did get arrested, and he was going to get prosecuted for drug crimes and drug trafficking. However, he was able to avoid that thanks to the private investigators he hired. He was going to get accused. He was going to get convicted. He was going to lose all the work of his life. Thanks to Mr. Bailey, there is at least one less criminal working in law enforcement. Just like Lynn in Dallas, Mary in Minnesota, Elizabeth in Georgia, and so many other targeted individuals persecuted for denouncing crimes, corruption, or illegal acts. On one too many occasions, law enforcement has teamed up with the criminals to protect them from legitimate complaints against them, and instead punish the law-abiding citizens through entrapment and referring them to a weaponized FBI that is eager to place people illegally and improperly in a terrorist database that contains 97% of the identities of innocent, honest, hardworking people. If there is a government weaponization, this is it. Yet Congress refuses to pull the plug on its funding. Martin Luther King Jr. used the phrase in the form, "Justice too long delayed is justice denied." We have tried to accelerate the urgent adjudication of our case. The government has used all of its tricks and tactics to delay its adjudication. Most importantly, at all times, they refuse to address the issue as to why innocent people that do not meet the reasonable suspicion criteria are on the terrorist screening database. Fortunately, our day in court is near. I will continue to be here, rain or shine, until we are all free. I hope to see you next week when I will set forth a summary of the defendant's responses to the appeal brief. I will also have a special guest that is not a TI, at least he doesn't think he is, and I am certain will explain many of the dots we have been connecting in this process, figuring out how we got to the point where the federal government is so weaponized against hardworking, talented, honest, law-abiding Americans. Until then, I hope you stay strong. And most importantly, we asked for your prayers for Dr. Bear, who is such a pillar of the community and who really needs the prayers. Thank you.